So I've had folks that got to their FI number, and what they did then was shift their work and say work is for a purpose. So for example, I have one couple that works completely for travel. So every dollar they earn from their job goes to travel. I have another couple that every dollar they earn from their job goes to charity. Doesn't really matter what you want to use it for, but it has to shift the purpose because you've met the goal and you're gone past it. And what happens, with the fire community, there's often this issue where what happens once you hit your number? It's kind of like the dog who caught the car. Like, what do we do next? And the challenge is most people know what they want to retire from, but they don't know what they want to retire to.
Welcome to the Childfree Wealth Podcast, hosted by Bree and Dr. J, Certified Financial Planner. Here we discuss life and finances as it relates to being child-free. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please consult your advisor before implementing any ideas heard on this podcast. Hello, Childfree Wealth listeners. Thank you so much for listening. Throughout the year, both myself and Dr. J really appreciate your support and you guys coming back to listen to the podcast week after week. Today, we're doing a special multi-episode release in which Dr. J dives into a few of the chapters in his new book, The Childfree Guide to Life and Money. Today, he's going to be focusing on things such as money behaviors and the boring middle as he talks through those different episodes, so be sure to catch them. In 2025, we have a variety of new things coming up. There'll be some episodes that really bring together the chapters of his book and highlight some essential takeaways. We have a variety of interviews that we're super excited for of people who think about finance in different ways or life, and we really just want to have those conversations and get that out there. If there's anything that you want us to cover, be sure to reach out to us. You can always email us by emailing media@childfreewealth.com. We love hearing from you and knowing what you want us to talk about and cover on the podcast. Have a wonderful day and enjoy the holidays.
Hey, Childfree Wealth listeners, we are back talking about the Childfree Guide to Life and Money, running through Chapter 20, Why the 4% Rule is Wrong for Child-Free Folks. And I'm going to go over this kind of the high level, but all the details in the book. Come on, order it at your favorite bookstore, Childfree Guide to Life and Money. So let's talk about the 4% rule. The 4% rule is based on what's called a safe withdrawal rate. And it's basically the assumption that you're going to have a 60-40 portfolio and how long is it going to take you to run out of money. And really they're trying to solve for, let's not run out of money over 30 years. And there's been some kind of debate, 4%, 3.5%, 4.5%, some numbers. But the 4% rule is based on research looking at historical returns and saying, hey, let's make sure there's a low likelihood of running out of money. Now, the problem is if you're child-free and you're trying to die with zero, it is the inverse. It's the opposite. It's going the wrong way for us. What happens is the 4% rule becomes kind of a rough number for us, but not a perfect number. Now, let me walk you through this. Essentially what it says is if you got $1 million, you can take $40,000 a year out of it, and there's a low likelihood you'll run out of money as long as you have a 60-40 portfolio. You'll hear this called the FI number or the FU number. It's kind of like when you have enough money, you can quit your job. Now, the thing is, if you're not actually going to retire, that affects it. And if you're not trying to pass the money to generation, that affects it. And there's a whole lot of other things on the research side that kind of question the number. But it does give you kind of a rough number for how much money do you need if you want to retire. So, for example, if you take whatever your annual expenses are and multiply it by 25, that'll tell you how much money you need to retire. Now, that doesn't even account for taxes, Social Security, insurance, long-term care, a whole bunch of other things, but it's like a rough back-of-the-napkin math. So I've been working on this for child-free folks and trying to figure out what percentage works for child-free folks. And unfortunately, there isn't one. It's not like it going like 5% magically fixes it for everybody. What happens is, we talked about when we're talking about winding down your wealth, you need to have a safety net to wind down your wealth. That includes long-term care, a plan for long-term care that includes some cash and putting aside Social Security till age 70. But what happens for child-free folks is this 4% rule just is going to result in having too much money in the end in most cases. So instead, what we need to do is actually set up a set of guardrails. Say I spend X amount per year, But you don't have to throw away everything about the 4% rule. You got to use it as a guidepost, like, hey, if I hit my FI number, which is 25 times your expenses, I have enough to retire if that's your goal. Now, what really happens is for most folks, when they hit their FI number, they're going, well, whatever. So let's say it's $1 million. Like, oh, well, getting to $1 million was easy. Let me go to 2. And they just keep moving the goalposts. Well, the problem there is you're never happy. For most child-free folks, if you hit your FI number, the question then becomes, okay, well, why haven't I retired or made work optional or cut back? Because if you're earning more money past your FI number, that means the money's going to your estate, which is not a goal. So it's kind of like one of those mind tricks, you read this stuff on financial independence, and it's a good concept. Like, really, you should get out of debt, have a budget, save money, do your best to get to that FI number. But then can you shift the way you think of life? So I've had folks that got to their FI number, and what they did then was shift their work and say work is for a purpose. So for example, I have one couple that works completely for travel. So every dollar they earn from their job goes to travel. I have another couple that every dollar they earn from their job goes to charity. Doesn't really matter what you want to use it for, but it has to shift the purpose because you've met the goal and you're gone past it. And what happens is, with the fire community, there's often this issue where what happens once you hit your number? It's kind of like the dog who caught the car. Like, what do we do next? And the challenge is most people know what they want to retire from, but they don't know what they want to retire to. Kind of like, what is next? What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? And FI or saving towards the 4% rule gives you a defined goal, but it might not be the right one for you. Make sure it matches your life plan. Make sure it matches your goals, and then just use as a rough guideline. Then you got to really do the hard thoughts of, you've kind of hit the child-free midlife crisis. You hit your personal, professional, financial goals, and you're like, now what? And there's a lot more of life left. Don't use the 4% rule for everything, but you can use it as a rough guess.
If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a rating or review. We'd love to keep the conversation going. Please let us know your thoughts wherever comments are available, or email us at media@childfreewealth.com. To stay up to date, find and follow Childfree Wealth on social media. If you're interested in working with us, learn more by visiting our website, childfreewealth.com. We'll see you next time.